You're listening to Your Superpowered Mind on the Superpower Up podcast, the show that investigates the innate power within your brain to create lasting change.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Your Superpowered Mind. I'm your host, Kristin Maxwell, and in this show, we explore the process of transformation and give you tools and strategies that you can use to transform your own life. Today, we are going to be talking to Carl Hunter about how to accelerate your personal development plan. Carl is the developer and creator of something called MindFlavors, which is a brain entrainment system that accelerates personal development. He got into personal development as a child when he just wanted to figure out how to manage and improve his own behavior. He continued to be interested in personal development and what it takes to maximize the brain's potential as he spent 10 years in the Virgin Islands, was in the diamond business, and spent a lot of time traveling. He is now, he returned to the US to pursue a career in art and also to share the MindFlavors process with all of you. So, Carl, I'm really excited to talk to you. Welcome to Your Superpowered Mind.
Well, hello, Kristin. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
Sure. My first question is always, what superpower did you uncover as the result of mastering your mind?
Well, it's an interesting question because the two kind of happened simultaneously for me. It started when I discovered a process, a technique where I could reprogram my subconscious mind. And what I discovered from that process, after doing that process, is that I have a genius mind within me, and there are no limits to what we can do as human beings. And so I've been using this process for the last 32 years, and my dream is to free humanity from limited thinking. And this process brought me to a point where the next evolution for me was to actually create a new technology. And so that's kind of how things got going for me. And so the superpower would be the genius that I've discovered that is within me.
That is amazing. And when you're talking about that genius that is within you, are you meaning that that is a genius that is within only you, or is it the genius that's within everybody, if we can just get to it?
I believe that we all have a genius inside of us, and that we all have the potential to expand in any direction that we would like to. And what most people are up against is the resistance from the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind its job is to keep things the same, and it's a protective mechanism. So it's a good thing. However, for most people, what it's protecting is old beliefs that are self-limiting and self-sabotaging. So as a child, we may have picked up a belief that we're not good enough, or we're not fast enough, or we're not pretty enough, or we're not this or that, smart enough, you name it. And even though it may have been kind of ridiculous as a thing to think as a child, it may have just come from a circumstance where that's how we felt. And if we feel that way, it imprints into our subconscious belief structure. I call it your blueprint. And then that's what becomes our belief around how reality is. And our subconscious is so powerful that it will attract to us the circumstances and events and people such that it will validate the reality that's in that blueprint. So for most people, they're just going to continue to live that reality over and over again. And when they bump up against a limitation, they'll a lot of times they'll say, well, see, that always happens. So I know that, I can't go beyond that because that always happens. That's reality. And I'm here to say that all of that can be changed very easily, as a matter of fact.
And that is why I am so excited to talk to you, because my whole goal in working with people and learning all this is to figure out what does it take for people to become happier and to live in integrity with their potential. And again, just as you were saying, in myself and in client after client, it is when we get to this point of, well, why aren't you doing this? Or, why are you still stuck doing this? We inevitably get back to some memory when they were young, where they concluded something about the world, how the way the world worked, or who they were, or what it meant. And they're still living at some level from that 2 or 3 year old point of view.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And it can happen. I believe it can happen even in the womb. So it can go way back. And because we're so connected with our mothers, we're tuned into what they're feeling. So think about this. Imagine this. You're in your mother's womb, and your mother has an experience that brings up heightened emotion and adrenaline pumping and all of those things that go with that experience. And as the baby, you're feeling that, and we're psychically tuned into our mothers as well. So even though we don't have the words, because we haven't been educated in the language of it, in our the way that we speak in the physical world, we are communicating with our mothers in a different way, and we pick up those impressions. So whatever she's experiencing, we are experiencing, and in a very profound way, because these are some of the earliest stages in our existence here, our earliest entry into this experience.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I had not actually thought all that way through, and makes me feel sorry for my oldest daughter, because I was a litigation attorney working on a very, very significant case right up to before she was born.
Oh, wow.
No wonder she has some stress hormones in her.
Well, the good news is that there's now a way that you can rewrite that program, and you can change those things. Now, most people have never learned that, and they don't teach it in school. And in my 32 years of being on this journey, I haven't seen anybody else talking about this. So I suspect it's just unknown. And what's really important to understand about this is that most of our decisions that we think we're making, and the choices that we're doing throughout the day, and the lives that we're living throughout the day, we have a tendency to think that because we're trained to use our thinking mind, that we are our thinking mind, and we're not our thinking mind. And most of what is running the show is our subconscious mind. So that belief structure, when that gets set into place, everything has to match that structure in order to, and that's what our subconscious mind, the most powerful part of us, is drawing to us, is everything to match that structure. So there's a specific technique that you can use to rewrite this program, and it's very, very simple, but I always tell people, don't let that fool you, the simplicity of this, because it is super powerful. But we have a tendency to be thinking about things from our conscious mind, and it's not super easy to understand the full depth of what I'm talking about here without actually experiencing it yourself. So I'll do my best to explain what I can.
Can I stop you there, because we do need to take a really quick break but I'm super excited to hear about what is involved in rewriting our our consciousness, or rewriting the program that is running us, and so that you can accelerate what it is that you actually want to achieve in the world. So hang on, and but before we go, can you tell people where they can learn about you?
Sure. They can go to mindflavors.com/VIP.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We'll be right back.
Hello, everyone. This is Tonya Dawn Rekla, Executive Director of Superpower Experts, and we want to thank each of you for making Superpower Up the #1 podcast network for personal development and spiritual growth. Because people like you have the courage to say that mindfulness, healthy living, disrupting reality, the pursuit of consciousness, responsible entrepreneurship, and radical parenting matter, we now amass over 1 million downloads monthly in more than 90 countries. Our numbers keep growing because there are far more people willing to live divergently than mass media wants to acknowledge. For you, the change makers, the light bearers, the way showers, we say thank you. If you're ready to take the next step in your evolution, go now to superpowerexperts.com and take the Superpower Quiz. And as Neva Lee Rekla, our youngest podcaster, likes to remind us, remember, we all have superpowers and we can change the world.
Welcome back, everyone. Carl, sorry, I cut you off right when you were about to get to the juicy stuff. I hate that. It's just like a commercial break. So
That's okay. It builds up the anticipation.
It does. Okay. So please, can you walk us through, what is this process, which is simple but powerful, and we don't know how to do yet in most of us?
Sure. Now, I'll tell you, what I'm going to explain to you is what I call the manual way to do this. And there's an even faster way to upgrade your consciousness, and that's using the new technology that I've created. But I'll come back to that. So speaking of the manual way, now this is really super powerful, but like I said, because it's so simple, it's don't let it fool you, because what you write will happen, and this is the process. What you do is you handwrite in cursive just before you go to sleep exactly what it is that you would like to experience. Now, there are a lot of different aspects to this, so I'll explain some of these. The reason why you do it just before you go to sleep is because this is the time when your subconscious mind is the most receptive. In other words, the barrier between that guards that subconscious mind is the least attentive. We call it the critical mind. So the critical mind is kind of starting to doze off. And when you kind of start to get into that drowsy state, and you can feel like you're about to drift off into a sleep, that's the most receptive time possible. So you do this just before you go to sleep. Now, technically within the last 30 minutes, but I like to do it as the last thing I do before going to sleep. And then what happens is throughout the night, you go through different dream stages. And in the first stage is the precognitive dream stage. And that's when your brain is absorbing all the information from the day, and it's taking most particularly what you just introduced within the last 30 minutes, and it's working that, and it's making projections and putting together the plan, so to speak. And then you go into the prophetic dream stage, and that's when your mind is putting those projections out to their final state, so to speak. And so oftentimes when we wake up during a dream, when it's during the prophetic dream state, it may be something that's going to happen or come true in our lives. Now, the third state is the venting stage, and that's when your mind is just dumping information that is no longer necessary for it to retain. And so that's not uncommon to wake up and that's the last couple hours of your sleep. So if you have a nightmare or something like that towards the end of your sleep like that, it's just your mind dumping old information. So we do this just before going to sleep in a certain way so that it can have the maximum time to go through this entire cycle so that you can get the most benefit from it. Now, why do we do it in cursive? cursive is, as opposed to print, cursive is more of a right brain activity, so it's more artistic. And the critical mind, another way that you can bypass that critical mind is to do things more in an abstract fashion. So the artistic approach is another aspect, another way that we can get that message into the subconscious mind. And it's important that you do it in the positive. So in other words, you would not write, I do not do this. You only program what it is you would like to see happen and expand in your world. So we always just write in the positive. Anything that you can say in the negative like that, you can also reverse it and say it in the positive. So it becomes a process of becoming creative and thinking through in a positive, in the present tense, as though it already exists, thinking through your experience. And part of the process of this is actually imagining and thinking through that experience and putting it into writing. If you can put it into writing, that initiates the process, essentially, is why you're creating that that sentence that you're writing.
Mm-hmm. And when you say exact what it is that you're wanting to experience with your experience and the people yourself and the people you've seen, is it something you want in the long term? Is it something that you want the next day? Like what type of desired experience are we talking about? At what level?
Well, that's a great question. And there are no limits here. So you can do either or both. And I like to do pretty much everything. I call it living from the inside out. So when I see something happen in my outer world, I resist the temptation to go hammer things into place, whether it be in relationships or outcomes of situations. Rather than do that, what I'll do is I'll take note of it and I will reverse engineer what happened, and I'll re-describe that in the way that I'd like to see that happen, and then I will write that before I go to sleep. And as early as the next day, the new reality shows up.
Huh. Is it possible to give an example of that? That's just a simple example, because that's a really interesting thought.
Yes, it's like magic.
It is like magic.
I often tell people that.
That's what I kept thinking as I was preparing. This sounds like magic. I love magic.
Sometimes I refer to your pen as your magic wand because it does feel like magic. And the reason why it feels like magic is because we are conditioned to live in limitation. So when our true genius emerges and all of those faculties start working for us, it can appear magical. But what's really happening is you're just using the fullness of who you are. You're just tapping into your potential, and your potential is coming forth. And I know that a lot of this stuff is new, and living this way can seem foreign at first. And this is why we actually coach people through this process in our program, because it's highly accelerated. When you see that, it's quite an awakening the day that you realize that reality is not fixed, and what you thought and what I thought was real can be changed. So that really changes everything when you can see it from that perspective.
Yeah.
And when you start experimenting with it, you'll see what I mean. You can use this in relationships. You can use the simplest thing of all is to program yourself to project certain types of energy. Like you can project love, you can project good energy, you can, and simply by writing that out, you will notice that people are suddenly drawn to you. That's a simple example.
Yes.
You can program yourself to attract good people or people who are good for you. If there's not to put any kind of judgment on it. If you put it simply for an alignment's sake, you can attract the people who are right for you. You can attract the right people in business. You can attract the right clients and customers. You can attract sales in your business. In fact, the program that we have is called Lucrative Sales Success, because every entrepreneur, and we serve entrepreneurs, every entrepreneur has to have sales in their business, and people who we believe are the people who are making positive change in the world are entrepreneurs who are getting their work out to assist other people in rising up. And so we're serving entrepreneurs. What the interesting thing is how they're connected with the business world. And in order for your business to expand, your personal development has to expand. You have to expand as a person. So if you would like more sales in your business, as an example, you have to create the space in the program for it to exist.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't matter what level you are on, these technologies and processes meet you where you are and take you higher. We have people in all stages, people without a business, people with businesses, people who are high-level business in our program, and they are exponentially increasing their consciousness on all levels here, no matter where they are to start with.
Wow. So I had cut you off because I just want to make sure. So this is what you do. You write it in the evening. And this right there is enough to start to change what's going on in your programming.
Yes, exactly. Now, I mentioned earlier that you can start seeing the results literally overnight, and I often do. It's so frequent that it doesn't even surprise me much anymore. But I see it also with other people and people in our program. We just recently had one gentleman that decided, he heard me talking about how I programmed myself to receive, this was back early on when I was doing this 32 years ago when I first learned about it. I programmed myself to there are a lot of different things you can do with money to increase your cash flow. You can attract it, you can generate it, you can earn it, and so on and so forth. And so the word came to me to collect, and I thought, oh, that's an interesting one. So I wrote that, and literally when I finished the period at the end of the sentence, somebody knocked on the door and handed me an envelope full of cash that was to be delivered for somebody else. And I was describing that experience. And so he decided that he was going to write something about that. And the very next day, someone who owed him something like $2,500 that he had written off, didn't think that it was ever going to get paid, out of the blue, paid him.
Wow.
Now some people will say, oh, okay, that's just a coincidence. But this is what I call alignment, because it's all around us all the time. We just had another member who, this is a good example. He literally watched the technology, the MindFlavors technology, one day, and the following day he received a check in the mail from the insurance company. Well, actually, I think it might have been a couple days later, but it was right after he started watching the MindFlavors. He got a check for $15,000, and he called up the insurance company and said, what is this for? And they said, well, we decided to give it to you. He had hail damage on his roof, but he waited too long to claim it, and so they told him he wasn't going to get it. Now, right after he watches the MindFlavors, he gets a check. They didn't even notify him. The next point of contact was receiving a check. These things we see commonly. Another woman, first time she watched it, we met with her in the morning. She said, yes, I definitely would like to get in your program. Can we meet in the afternoon and wrap up the details? And we said, sure. And in the afternoon, we met with her, and she said, right after she got done meeting with us in the morning, somebody gave her a check. She had a meeting. Somebody gave her a big check out of the blue. Over and over and over again, we see this. So I know it's not coincidence. In fact, I don't believe in coincidences anymore. I believe it's just alignment. So that begs the question, well, what can you align with? And I propose that you can align with anything that you can imagine.
Right. Which is a really, frankly, a beautiful way of looking at the world.
Yes, it is.
So you had mentioned, so this is a manual way, but you have developed some technology that speeds up the process, I think. And so what is that technology, and what does it do, and how does it work?
Okay, great. It's a video. It's called MindFlavors, and it's a 4.5-minute video, and it is highly concentrated with just a ton of things that are happening. But basically what you're doing is you are clearing out the cobwebs, clearing out the old limiting beliefs and negative thought patterns that are pretty much weighing people down. So, you know how, and some of us have gotten good at quieting that voice, but I haven't met anyone yet who didn't have mind chatter going on in their head. And there was one person that we had who was highly evolved that we met with prior to, we do private screenings with this technology, so we allow people to experience it and see what it is before we invite them into the program. And we had one woman who came to us. I was really surprised, and she said, I don't have any mind chatter, because I usually ask people. And I said, wow, that's phenomenal. So we went ahead and showed it to her. And when she came back, she said, one of the first things she said was, wow, my mind is quiet at a new level. So it's very common that right afterwards, this is why we like to do the before and after videos, because it's so obvious. You can see the transformation.
Yes.
The first thing that people do when they get back to us on the video usually is they're smiling ear to ear. And most of the time they say, I don't know why I'm smiling. I can't stop smiling. Now, the reason why, because I'm telling you all this to tell you what I believe is happening in their consciousness. I believe what happens is life and old subconscious programming produces patterns, thought patterns that become ingrained, and they become so part of who we think we are that we think we are that structure of patterns. And when you watch this technology, it literally creates new neural pathways in your brain in minutes, and you can feel it start working within seconds. Most people say within seconds they already feel it happening. And it rewires your brain and basically accesses who you are today without all of those limitations. And so a lot of those, a huge percentage of those patterns that are weighing people down are immediately removed. So we've had people have spontaneous healings. We've had people have sadness that they've carried for 30 years and nothing has lifted, and in 4.5 minutes it's gone.
Wow.
It's because we are raising our consciousness. It's changing our consciousness. It's up-leveling our consciousness.
And what is the technology that allows this to happen?
Well, the technology itself is proprietary, but I can tell you that there are quite a few different things happening. There are audio things, there are visual things, and it's a synergistic approach. And it's based on ancient science as well as modern technology, combined with my own personal creativity and the years of experience that I've had experimenting with programming the subconscious mind. I'll just tell you, it came about because I programmed myself to increase my manifestation abilities exponentially. So think about that. I was programming myself to increase my manifestation abilities exponentially, and this technology pretty much was downloaded into my consciousness, so to speak.
Yeah, that's great. So is it something, I mean, when I've looked at it, it looks like that it's you're looking, just for people who they'll have to go to your website, but it's shapes and sounds. Is it binaural beats or something like that, that they work on ordering your brain? Is that what's going on? I mean, is there a really dumbed down version?
That's a good way of putting it. Order in your brain. Success happens in an organized mind. And so if you can imagine that a car, an engine of a car, when it's not tuned up and the pistons are firing, the spark plugs are firing at certain times, if they're not timed just right, that motor is going to be wobbling all over the place because it won't be firing in harmony. Those cylinders won't be firing in harmony. When your mind is optimized, it's like giving your brain a tune-up. Now your brain is actually functioning better. When your right and left hemispheres of your brain are integrated, which is also produced in this process, your coordination goes way up. Your understanding, comprehension increases, skyrockets. Everything that you do is more effective because you are functioning. Like I said, if you think about that like that motor and being all out of tune and how it would just be wobbling all over versus something that's fine-tuned and smooth running and able to maximize its potential. That's what's happening with your brain. Now, there are a number of different ways that we accomplish this with the technology, and there is definitely a synergistic approach. So it's more than just the combination of the parts. The sum is greater than the combination of the parts. So to kind of give you some technical, it's multifaceted brainwave entrainment. Okay, so we're talking about visual brainwave entrainment, audio brainwave entrainment, combined with positive programming, as well as a number of other things. But to kind of give you the big picture overview, we're using these technologies to tune up your brain waves. Now, what I do with these brain waves is I get your brain to lock on to a specific frequency, and then I slow that frequency down, and that's what puts you into a really receptive state. And then there are very unique visual aspects to this that are clearing out those cobwebs of your brain and allowing you to recreate new neural pathways. The visual elements are proven to create new neural pathways in your brain just by looking at them in the static form. And this is a highly animated form that is supercharging your brain, basically.
Wow. That sounds very, very cool. So if people want to learn more about this and maybe experience it for themselves, where can they go? Where you told us, but tell us again, please.
Sure. The place to go is mindflavors.com/VIP. And you'll see a short video of my partner, Amy Huntelman, and myself. We work on this together. She works with the body, and we have another process to complement this in our program so that your highly accelerated transformation is smooth and easy. And you'll see a video of us on there and some before and after videos where you can see what other people have experienced and hear them talking about that. And if it's right for you, then you can schedule a private screening with us. We would be happy to show it to you and give you a private screening. And then we go from there. It is by invitation only. And the reason why is because it is highly accelerated, and we'd like to make sure that people are ready for it.
Yes, I can see that. Yeah, if you're ordering your mind, it seems like that is going to be all for the good, making you more of a whole brain functional person. But I could see how if people are not quite ready to carry through, it could be overwhelming, I suppose.
Mostly what it is whether or not they are ready for change. Okay, because here's why. Because if a person is not truly committed to change, at the first little sign of of resistance, they're gonna give up. They're gonna quit. They're gonna stay the same. They're gonna choose to stay the same. So that's why I say you have to really be ready for change. If you've had enough of the old way, and you say there's got to be a better way to live than this, or if you're at a place where you're doing great, but you just know that you can do more, and there's something invisible, feels like something invisible is holding you back. You don't really know what it is. It's most likely subconscious programming, and all the books you read in the world, all the therapy you do, talk therapy and all that in the world is not going to really make a dent in what's going on with your subconscious. So you really, in order to make that happen, to make those things change, you've got to address it at the subconscious level. It's very easy to do.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for talking us through this. And it's very intriguing. I suggest that everybody go and check it out and look at it, because I do agree that there is this piece in making real change that is easier rather than having to keep pushing. It takes some sort of subconscious, dealing with the subconscious.
Yes. Doing things with willpower is the hard way.
Yes.
If you'd like to make change happen, change habits, change your lifestyle, anything like that, go do it from the inside with your subconscious programming. Now, I just remembered now that I'd love to give your audience a gift, a free ebook that will explain this process and walk you through it step by step. It'll even give you a template, a whole bunch of templates that you can use, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. These are power declarations, I call them, all created, and all you have to do is plug in your own words that you'd like to use. And this way you can get started and literally start seeing results as early as tomorrow.
Wow.
And
very cool. And will they find that at the VIP link, or where should they go?
That's a different link, and that's mindflavors.com/ebook.
Okay, great. That's awesome. Thank you, Carl, so much for being with us today. Listeners, go out, and until next time, remember that you do hold the power to change and transform your world.
Thanks, Kristin.
Thank you. That was fun.
Are you ready to discover your superpowers? Go now to superpowerexperts.com and take the superpower quiz today.